Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Gone Fishing. I'm your host, Connor, CEO at Phin, and I am joined once again by the amazing Wes Spencer, co-founder of Empath. Wes, how are you?
Doing great, Connor. Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. I always love our chats. For folks who aren't too familiar with you or Empath, could you give us just a quick peek as to what that is?
Yeah, for sure. So Empath is all about helping MSPs do two things well: standardize their onboarding experience and give upskill capabilities for every single employee wherever they're at in their journey of their MSP. MSPs don't hire from CrowdStrike or Microsoft or even Phin Security. They hire from the Geek Squad or the AT&T store, and then we have to think through how do we get them up to speed and marching in the same direction. And Empath is a platform that's about solving for that.
That's awesome. And so, folks, if you missed the last episode, we talked a ton about upskilling employees and education and some of the issues. And why does it seem like everyone in a peer group gets to that 10 to 12 million in revenue mark and then seems to stagnate or runs into problems where they just don't want to deal with them anymore? So, if that all sounds like anything you're interested in, or sounds like you, take a look at that. It was the previous episode we did with Wes. But Wes, I got another question for you today. How do MSPs increase employee satisfaction?
That is a loaded question, right? So let's start with this. You have some finite some tangible limitations. When I was a kid and I wanted to go to the store, I might have mowed the lawn and did some work, and my mom might have given me $5, right? And in the 90s, that was worth a lot. And I had $5 to spend. I could literally do anything I want in the mall as long as it came in at $5 or under. So I could buy one thing. I could do a lot of things with the $5. Usually I just went to the arcade and blew the whole thing there, but that was worth about 2 hours of fun, and coin op quarter based games, usually on Ninja Turtles. Uh, that's the same way we are for MSPs. You have a bucket of cash. The ultimate easy example is to say, well, pay each employee 180,000. They'll never want to go anywhere else because it's game changing money. We can't do that. That's not going to happen. So now we have to shift out of the normal things of like, well, money matters. Well, money does matter, but there's a lot of other things we have to start thinking about when it comes to building satisfaction for our MSP. Startups traditionally are really good at this. You take any normal startup, they pay people way under the average salary, but they give them a ton of freedom and they give them buy-in and ownership into the company, not just in terms of equity, which is big, but also in terms of like, you're helping this company survive. When you put your stamp on the day, you actually move the needle, not just for this company, but the companies we serve. And that's a powerful mission of saying, I actually have a role to play. My job is not meaningless. And what I'm doing is accomplishing something for the common good of everybody. That's something people get behind. And so I'll just say this, Connor, and then we'll kind of open this up because I know you have thoughts on this too. MSPs are a lot more like a college football team than they are an NFL team. And what I mean by that is an NFL team, I can go take my best players, I can franchise tag them, pay them the league maximum plus extras, and they'll never leave. I've got them forever. MSPs have to recognize that is never going to happen. There is always going to be the Bank of America that can come in and outpay your salary. And you will always have people that will attrition and go to those. And you can't blame them. It's better for them and for their families. Nothing wrong with that. I think if we realize that's not us, we're a college football team instead. How did Nick Saban build an empire? I know enough about sports ball to know this. He became the greatest of all time, knowing that his best players are going to stay for 2 years. That's it. So he built what he calls the process. And you can actually go Google Nick Saban's The Process. It's a fascinating read. And basically, the whole thing is, I got you for 2 years. Follow me, follow my process, and I'm going to make you better prepared for the NFL than any other school. You're not coming to play for Alabama. You're coming to play for Nick Saban. And when he established that culture and he proved that his process worked, he had players coming in left and right. And that is why he had some of the best talent, but not just the best talent, the best education, the best process to get them to where they wanted to go. And they have more NFL players in the league than anyone else right now. It's so, and that's us as MSPs, knowing I need to build the process, and that process results in great satisfaction of our own employees, knowing I'm coming, knowing I'm getting upskilled, knowing I've got a career trajectory. LinkedIn did a study a couple years ago. 94% of employees say, I would stay at my organization longer if my company invested in my career development. Whoa. So we're seeing this all culminate and play out. MSPs that invest in their folks have great customer satisfaction that comes back as a result.
I actually really love that example because it goes along with one of the core principles that I have, not only as a founder, but as a business leader, that I tell every MSP, just walk through this really quick thought exercise with me, is pretend all of your employees at every point in their life, even today and moving forward and in the past, did what they always thought was in their best interest for themselves and their family. What would they do? Would they smack you across the face? Would they be a good employee? Would they be a bad employee? How would they function? And you will get very close. If you're honest with yourself and if you know your employees well enough, you'll get very close to how they actually behave. Because, shocker, people always do what they believe is in their best interest and in the interest of their family. And where I see most MSP, not even MSP owners, not to pick on them, but business owners in general, because I talk with a ton here in Delaware where it's a really small community, is they're not transparent with what the opportunity is. They've lied to their employees in some fashions, or even worse, they've lied to themselves about the opportunity that they'll give their employees or that their employees can pursue. So even though the employees think that they're pursuing the opportunity that's best for them, in reality, it's not. It's not necessarily a sham, but it's not quite represented properly. And that's exactly what Nick Saban did. Hey, the opportunity here is not to play for Alabama. Yeah, that's an opportunity today. The opportunity is to take this game wherever you want it, upstream into the NFL, or at least have life skills where you can take outside the NFL if that's what you decide to do as well.
I love that. Yeah. And I think we have to recognize that. You hear all the time people say, like, people railing against CEOs that say, well, we're like family here. They always reply back, like, we're not family. We're working together. And while there's truth to that, I think it's better to start thinking through what you just said, this idea of we all have our own goals on why we're here. And that does not cause conflict. That's a reality. I'm here to put ultimately, I'm here to put bread on the table for my family. I'm here to take care of who they are. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't work together and accomplish our goals when I have selfish motivations and you have selfish motivations. Let's recognize that and let's actually leverage those to work together for the common good. I mean, that's how the world works. And so I think when we recognize that, I think that goes a long way. And I think jumping into using the name of our company, an empathetic approach to understanding who our folks are, to understanding what it is that they're looking for and what they want to achieve. Have you ever sat down with every single employee in your org and said, maybe not you yourself, but it's from a management team, what are you trying to go into? What do you want to do in this world? What gets you passionate? How can we help you get there? What can we do to get you onto that pathway and that trajectory? Instead of just sit down, pull this lever that does unknown things on the back end and go home into your day realizing nothing has changed. No one wants to be in an organization like that. And so I have found over and over and over, people will take pay cuts. People will take more risky jobs simply because they know they can make an effect. And at the end of their day, at the end of their career, at the end of their life, things change. There's a great podcast on this. It's called, it's by Alex Lieberman. I think it's called 1,000 Weeks. And what he does is he separates all of life into 1,000 weeks. It's basically how much we've been given. I think it's 1,000 weeks. Somebody do the math. And anyway, he sort of splits. He says your first third is wasted because you're a kid up to 18. Like, you're not really going to change the world. Your last third, maybe your last 10%, you're probably too old, assuming you make it to 89 years old. It's the middle. It's 1,000 weeks. That's what you have to change your world. What are we doing with that? Connor, I'm halfway through that. So I think about this often. I want to do things missionally that make a difference for me, for my family, and for those around me. And if we can make work do the same thing, all of a sudden we can have we really can boost satisfaction. We can get people to see I'm part of a greater good and I'm doing bigger things that mean more for me and the world around me. That's what I think a lot of us lack.
One of the things that I see starkly lacking from a hiring process is trying to figure out who an employee wants to be outside of work. So for somebody like you, who's a co-founder, an entrepreneur, for anyone listening that's a business owner or has started them in the past, most of your value you can derive from your work because you've created that, right? You're doing this incredibly hard thing, not because you're a masochist and you love the pain and the suffering. It's because you generate a ton of fulfillment and value out of that. But your employees don't get that, and they never should, right? I think it is a huge misappropriation of value for a business owner like myself or anyone in a business who's in a business owner capacity to look at an employee and say, you should try just as hard as I will at this because you should get the same amount of value. It's like, no, the value's not the same. The economics on the back end when the company sells is definitely not even close to the same. And so I spend personally a lot of time trying to figure out, is like, what's the person you'd love to be outside of work? How can I help you be that individual? Because I'm willing to bet 80 to 90% of your value as a human and your fulfillment in your own life with your family, it's not going to come inside of these four walls while you're working for me 8 hours a day or whatever it is. It's going to come from things you want to be outside of work. How can we help you get that? And you'll never leave here. You will always stay aligned with us if I can help you get that, because no other job's going to get you that, because it's not during the 8 hours of the day that you're getting paid to work. It's during the other 16.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And I see some awesome just turn it back to MSPs for a minute. I see so many awesome MSPs that do a really good job of this. You talk to their folks and they say, I love what I do. I love who I work for. I love the work-life balance, and I love the capabilities of how I've been able to grow and flourish in this role. And I have ownership in what I do. And I'm not being micromanaged down to the tiniest of levels. Are they making the Bank of America salary? Absolutely not. But I think what we've discovered is, for some people, making the most amount of money possible will always be the most important. Fine. But for a lot of folks, it's not exactly it. And so I think for us realizing that and saying what you just said of understanding, and I know Gary Vee talks about that a lot too, quit expecting your employees to act like a co-founder, because they're not. Start understanding that they're actual real human beings and they have a real value system. And there's things that actually matter to them. It might go beyond work, but we have the ability to use work to leverage and open that up, whether that's, giving them time off to do something they're passionate about, whether it's making sure we have a culture of work-life balance and we're not just a crush and go, go, go kind of mentality that just absolutely steals souls away. Maybe we can do more working just a little bit less sometimes, right? And here I am probably working way too much saying that, but those are things that I think are really, really important for us. And we really do have to take the empathetic look and actually care about our employees. And say, because I care about you, like you said so well, what is it you're interested in? Who do you want to become? I'd love to hear. I'd love to know if there's things that we can do to help you get there. What a powerful thing.
And selfishly, it's like, hey, I can't help you. I can't help you be that person. I don't see a way where I can provide that. It's a way. It's like the biggest identifier of a really great sales process is how quickly does somebody filter out of it, not how fast does someone move through it. It's right when it's very clear this person is not a part of the sales process and never should be, that they immediately leave. So it's like when you're trying to figure out if you should be working for somebody, or they're trying to figure out as well, should they work for you? It's like, hey, let's be really transparent. I can't help you do these other things. I can help you do these over here. I can give you this opportunity, but I can't give you this one. Is that a deal breaker? And maybe they say, actually it is. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to. Boom. You'll stop wasting each other's time. You'll move on to the next candidate, whatever it is. But what matters is that they filter out quickly. And that actually didn't even plan this, but it leads perfectly into the next point I'd love your opinion on is, what are the main drivers of employee satisfaction? And the one we just touched on is essentially transparency. I can do this. I can't do that. If you lie to your employees, they'll pursue the opportunity until they realize it's all been a sham, and then they'll hate you. So how do we avoid that?
Yeah, that is a great question, right? And we have the normal metrics that exist out there, whether it's doing like 360 reviews of like, I review you, you review me. We look at this across the board, whether you look at, customer success metrics like, CSAT and some version of NPS. There are tools out there for us to really get a flavor of like how folks actually feel and where they're at in the org. And I think those things are wonderful. And I think a lot of MSPs are doing those things. But I also think just sort of like, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but I just brought this up here because this really kind of rings to me a little bit too, is like, I can't get to the next level of meeting needs until I've established the baseline below it, right? And so it starts with physiological needs, things like I need air to breathe, I need food to eat, food, shelter over my head. If I don't have those basic needs, I can never go above this, right? And so even if you look at like the homeless population we have in the US and what a great problem that is, we can't do anything for them until we go and we establish that basic need that exists for them there. They are not meeting the basic red line needs. And so there's no hope for those folks until we find a way to fix that, right? Then when you move up into safety and security, then you move beyond that to love and belonging, then into self-esteem, and then to self-actualization. I can become the person who I want to be. Now, why am I sharing all that? I'm sharing that because I think that needs to become sort of the measure of where we're at. We should build an employment MSP hierarchy of needs, right? Are we doing the bare minimums to make sure that our folks have enough to live on based on where they're at? Then are we doing the next level of like, what are we doing from a perspective to give them safety and security and confidence in their role and what they're doing, that they have a place to belong? Then are we moving into a vision? What's the vision for the company? How do you fit into this? And how can we help you accomplish your vision where you want to go? And then we can move into here's how we can help you get there. This is what it looks like for you. This is what it looks like for us. This is our goals for you. This is our goals and commitment back to you. And then we can get to the ultimate pinnacle, this level of here's who you are, here's where you're going, and here's kind of we've summarized all of this together to say this is the pinnacle. You are operating in a way that is so important to us and so important to you. We're in lockstep, and we might even understand, because we've gotten to that degree, I got one more year with you, and then you're going to go do something else in the future. Great, we celebrate that. Let's build that process into our measurement and our working with every single employee. Make sure we go through that.
You actually bring up a topic that I'm super interested in. I talk about all the time, which is business culture. And I'm actually doing a talk at MSP GeekCon May 17th. I don't know when this episode is going to be released, but I'm doing that talk there. And the biggest misconception that I see business owners having about business culture is that you mentioned that bottom section of the pyramid. It's things like safety, security, air to breathe, water. And in a business culture mindset, like let's try to translate those needs into business culture. The very, very bottom line, healthcare, benefits, salary, stable work environment. And yet most business owners that I talk to, they claim that the entirety of business culture is those three things. Is the how much am I paying? What are the benefits like? And how much PTO do I give people? It's like, hold on. It's like, you're not even close to this employee is a rock star and they're motivating themselves in so many separate ways. And they're actually helping me discover like, what are the limitations of my own business and my own leadership abilities? It's like, because you've mistaken the entirety of business culture for what is essentially the very bottom part of the pyramid. It's like, that's where you start. It's not even close to the finish line. And I see a lot of business owners make that mistake.
That is well said, brother.
Yeah. For folks who wanted to connect with you, Wes, or connect with Empath to figure out what it's all about, where would you suggest they go?
Yeah, so best ways to find me is LinkedIn. That's where I live. So just search my name, Wes Spencer. I promise I'll come right up. And then for Empath, just check us out at empathmsp.com. We'd love to show you what we're doing. We can give you a quick 5-minute demo, show you the power of how we're helping MSPs transform and become a better part of who they want to be for every single employee. So you can check us out there too.
Awesome. For folks, if you've been listening or watching, we'll have links to Wes and Empath in the show notes, so you could go ahead and connect there. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode. As always, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to Gone Fishing. If you want to find out more about high-quality security awareness training campaigns, how to launch them in ways that actually engage employees to change their habits, then check us out, Phin Security, at phinsec.io. That's phinsec.io, or click all of the wonderful links in our show notes. Thanks for fishing with me today, and we'll see you next time.